Welcome to Interro Bites. These are 15-minute videos taken from my long-form live streams. If you want to see the full video or more, subscribe to Dacquisto and check out the playlists on my main page. Thanks for being here. Enjoy.
Why would she be concerned about people bugging her phone, or the police bugging her phone, I guess is what she's specifically concerned about?
She's not concerned about that. She told me that.
Did you ask?
Okay, Alfred. So he looks, so you're saying Jeffrey looks thoroughly annoyed with the situation. Yeah, he looks very disturbed and concerned. I think you're right about that. He really does. And like he's racking his brains and he's given this a lot of thought. And he even said it, he came back because he didn't feel like Detective Hales might have heard him, what he was trying to say in some cases.
That's why?
No, I knew I immediately thought she did this. And so she told me 50 times, Jeff, I had nothing to do with it.
I want you to understand what he just said. He started to say, I knew. He said, I knew she. And then he said, I immediately thought she did this. He almost said, I knew she did this.
With this. And I always just let it be silent. Sorry. I just let it be silent because I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to play my hand. I've never said anything to her.
He's talking about them, Wendi and her speaking finally after the murder, by the way.
Just wanted to listen. I was hoping she might give me something interesting and I would come tell you guys. Because she's erratic enough, I thought she might say something stupid. She must have said 50 times, I had nothing to do with this. And you saw her statement in the press. She's worried for the safety of her and her children. No one's suggesting a serial killer looking for Jewish lawyers, I mean, it's just pretty targeted. So,
yeah, you think, she's concerned for her children's safety.
Wendi plays the victim so well. To me, it looked like classic Wendi. Everybody else felt bad for her. I thought, holy crap, she did this. She plays the victim instantly. She's great at it.
She's great at it.
And those names I give you, I mean, that's so you have all the data I have.
We got to see that in her interrogation, didn't we?
Wendi with Charlie. I don't know who pulls the trigger, but there's a very strange relationship between those two.
So not only does the father Photoshop her in ways that feel really inappropriate to me personally, I'm not sure most fathers would do that, but now he's saying that she also had a very strange, in his words, strange, he uses strange to mean a lot of different things that are pretty extreme, relationship with Charlie.
I acknowledge this might all sound real crazy to you, Mr. Gary.
I'm not, no. So I'm very interested in this.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I understand it completely and thoroughly.
Yeah.
And I can see that it's been weighing on you heavily.
Well, it has, because it sounds crazy to people. Obviously. Although I've told a couple of people the whole story like I told it to you start to finish, and no one else has said I'm crazy. My therapist said, one thing I forgot to tell you, I had to go get a damn therapist. It was so crazy. Yeah.
So even Detective Hales, two things I want to say. He's acknowledging that he can see. So what you're seeing, what you're observing about his concern and his annoyance with the situation, Detective Hales is also acknowledging right here, which is nice. And the other thing is Detective Hales, no police officer is going to sit there in a room for that amount of time unless they really feel like they're getting information that's valid. And at the end here, Detective Hales is saying, yeah, this is interesting to me. A police officer wouldn't say that if it weren't.
So I try to manage her. I try to get some advice on relationships. And in April of 2014, he tells me, look, he's real blunt. I gotta be honest with you. There's two possibilities. One is she's just getting over a divorce and drinking too much, and she'll settle down over time, maybe live happily ever after. Second option, she sounds an awful lot like a sociopath to me. That's an objective person.
Right.
And I said, sociopath? She said, yeah, high functioning, but she doesn't seem to have a conscience. And I said, oh, Jesus, what I got myself into, because I was.
She doesn't seem to have a conscience. This is, of course, his therapist talking about her, but
in love with her, and I wasn't going to leave at that point. But that's the kind of feedback I've got when I tell people when she's.
And a lot of people have pointed out that he says, well, I was in love with her and I wasn't going to leave regardless of that. So that's kind of interesting. That's kind of strange.
Actually, I prefer that you guys catch somebody else, obviously.
Right. When's the last time you talked to her or had any conversation?
I can find it for you. It would have been in around August 20th.
Oh, that long ago.
Yeah.
So just by way of reminder, Professor LaCasse is a professor of psychology. He also had some experience with forensic psychiatry and psychology. And he did discuss it in previous interviews. So he's using a lot of clinical terms, and the detectives would be familiar with those things.
She cut off all contact because I didn't tell her I was dating. It was just bizarre. That was the time, it was about the time of commencement, summer semester commencement. That was another thing as far as narcissism and a crazy person. You know what Wendi was mostly upset about? She told me this. The fact that she had to cancel her commencement speech because Danny was shot. Her attorney said it's a bad idea to get yourself in front of the media like that. Inside Edition will show up. You can't do it. She was devastated.
This is also heartbreaking. And Detective Isom says, He's kind of thinking, because he spent 5 hours with her, and I'm sure it's all starting to come together. Too Deep says, you just read my mind. I was wondering, you were wondering about Professor LaCasse's specialty or something else. Thank you.
It's bizarre.
I went back and looked. Apparently you all have somebody, McPherson.
Jay McPherson.
Yeah. What's the relationship?
Jane.
She has something to do with Wendi?
They claim that she was in the room with Wendi in the 9 hours you guys interviewed Wendi.
No, she came up here. She was not in the room with her.
Wendi told me she was in the room.
Well, okay, let me correct that.
That sounded weird to me.
She came in the room. I think it was over the children. The children had to be picked up.
Gotcha.
And
so just again, by way of reminder of what Jeffrey just said, he said Wendi claimed, and he used the word claimed, Jane was in the room with her for in the entire interview, and that it was for 9 hours.
And there was two ladies that were up here, and I can't remember if that was McPherson or not.
No, Jane was with her that day. And coincidentally, Jane's one of my doctoral students in our program. So she's getting her PhD in social work. I teach in social work, so I know her professionally.
Right.
Jane is the one I talked to for about 3 hours, maybe 2 weeks after the crime. They told me that Wendi and her circle of friends thought I did this.
Jane told you that?
Jane told me that. She said you had to be there if you were, and she basically made it sound like if
you can just, for me, I may be wrong, obviously, this is just a guess, but I feel like I can feel Detective Isom's wheels turning right now. Jane. Oh, that Jane, the Jane that I met and had to kick out of the interview room. Stop. By the way, anyone, if you're wondering why Katie is yelling stop at me, I forgot to mention at the beginning. If you want me to pause at any time, you can just say so in the comments and I'll pause. What am I? Yes, Katie. Yes. Tell us what you're hearing. Jane is his student. Yes, he is. She was at the time. Yes.
And she's a confidant of Wendi. But Jane knows Wendi as well as anybody. Jane doesn't think any of this.
Alfred, wait, what? This is usually what Katie says. Yes. Are you all letting Katie, you can be okay? No, that's her job, is to say, wait. That's I don't know if you guys have seen Katie on with me. She's usually on with me. So I've been just doing this 4-part series on my own during this weekend between Christmas and the New Year's. That's right. That's right. Downtown Wonder, welcome and hi. What is up with making sure Wendi never traveled alone? That's right. Wendi mentioned that. Jeffrey mentions it, that even though she's a 35-year-old mother of 2, a lawyer, a professor, she's not allowed to drive back and forth from Tallahassee to Miami on her own, because she in his terminology, said they infantilize her, treat her like a baby. Yeah. No, she was a student. She's graduated now. She was his student at the time. Word has it that Wendi and Jane are still friends. I don't know about Jeffrey and Jane. Yes, how the family was raised. What Jeffrey said earlier in a previous interview a couple days ago, was that when he went into the Adelson home in the Miami area where they live, that it was strange. He used the word strange a lot, that it was creepy and secretive and weird in their home. I don't know what he saw. Yes, as long as Jane is all right. Yes. Wendi, and this refers to Wendi wearing the same dress to both trials. In the trials were 3 years apart. Yeah, there are a lot of theories about why she did that. All right, let's get through this.
Wendi's pretty good at fooling people.
Wendi's pretty good.
Although some of this information is publicly available, I should add. Like, she's a Truman Scholar. If you go on the web and look at her statement, she says.
So Wendi's pretty good at fooling people. He's talking to Detective Isom, who some might argue could have held her on, and she got away to Miami with just a promise that, yeah, I'll talk to you after the memorial.
I hate Tallahassee, you're a bunch of country bumpkins. That's basically what she says. You know?
Although I think she told a lot of the locals
What they
that she was satisfied, she wanted to make the best of things, and that she actually.
Well, that is what she said, and not when the door closed and it was just me and her in the house. That was, I mean, I got tired of listening to it. I think it's a great place. I deliberately moved back here. I could have went anywhere. I mean, so.
But it wasn't for her, and she made that clear to you, is what you're saying.
On a daily basis, you couldn't pull up to the movie theater without hearing about how the movie theater in Miami is better.
Okay.
She was obsessed with it. You know, her and Danny thought they'd be here a semester. Got stuck here. So.
And then and all she'd been wanting to do is get back to South Florida, and she made that quite clear to you.
I mean, it was kind of cold, actually. She basically told me, if it's between you and South Florida, I'm going to South Florida.
Okay.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else. So there's just some sick dynamics where Wendi at one point told me when Dad was extremely violent. And I thought, well, this makes sense why you're so gun shy and, you know, hair trigger. And then later I said, well, with your history of family violence, she said, I never said that. So there was a lot of inconsistencies in the line.
So he's saying that Wendi Adelson told him that her father was violent, and then evidently forgot that she told him that, and then denied that her father was violent. So who knows if he was or wasn't.
But I don't think Charlie's been up here. If you were, your experience and instincts, you were to talk to Charlie, I assure you, there's something off about that guy.
What about this FBI?
I heard through the grapevine that the FBI talked to Rob up in New York.
That's what Wendi told you?
No, I think that's what Jane McPherson told me.
Okay.
So, and I try not to believe everything I hear because misinformation's everywhere. You know?
Well, if Jane McPherson heard it, she most likely got it from Wendi.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true.
But he's like an outside He's not really a part of the core family.
They don't have a relationship, basically. Okay. And the impression is he's a guy who wants nothing to do with his family. There's something that happened.
Okay, so what Jeffrey is talking about is Wendy's other older brother who lives in New York, who has not been implicated in any way by the state in this.
That house, and he wants nothing to do with it.
Okay.
And I just think there's, that's the other theory, which will sound super crazy, but the people that have visited the house in Miami said to me, has anyone considered maybe the whole family's in on this? I mean, this is I said, people don't do that. I said, well, you go in that house, it's real strange in there. It's real secretive. It's real weird.
Have you met her parents?
I have.
Is there anything that you can tell me about them?
Everyone in that family suffers from a severe lack of empathy for other people. Okay. She learned that somewhere. Pillars of the community. You get on his website. I mean, years ago I went on it. He was polite to me, but Dad's polite. Mom's kind of rude, actually. I know that Father has been speculated about. They hate Danny in a way. I have a life. I've been through a divorce. I get life. I've never seen this kind of obsession. Like their hobby is hating Danny. It was like really strange. I mean, and I fell into this because Wendi could convince you of it, and maybe she convinced the parents. But they were going to put you said you looked at some emails, but not others. At one point, Wendi was going to get a restraining order against Danny, which in retrospect is bizarre because he was a good dad. But she had Gary, Gary is a lawyer that he's the one that offered Wendi the job so she could relocate in the summer of 2013. He runs a tort firm suing drug companies. He offered her $1 million job. And
so he's talking about the person who offered Wendi $1 million a year job back in Miami in 2013.
I wondered about him too. It's not sexual. It's more of a father-daughter thing, but they're close.
Gary.
I don't know his last name.
Where does he work?
He's a lawyer. He works in Miami.
Okay.
He owns a tort firm, and their emails. I mean, she sent this document. She compiled every email, like between Danny and Wendi, for like a year and a half. And the idea was to make this legal case that Danny is harassing her and stalking her. She always goes to this. She told me Danny was a stalker because he looked out the window one time and saw her walking down the street without the kids. And he goes, "Where are my kids? I have right of first refusal. If you don't have the kids, I should have the kids." Wendi claimed that was stalking because he said that. So anyway.
So she's also claimed, and this is in the, unfortunately, in the paperwork that Jeffrey still had, which he was reviewing, that Wendi called Dan a stalker. Okay.